I am Anna Seawold, and this is Authentic Parenting, a podcast about personal development in the context of parenting, where I explore how you can find more calm, connection, and joy in parenting through the process of self-discovery and inner growth with a trauma-informed lens. In today's episode, I am speaking with one of the most active members of the Authentic Parenting community, Justin Mitchell, all about single fatherhood, the legacy of fathers, race, overcoming adversity, and parenting as an invitation for personal growth. Justin has an incredible story. He's a single, fully engaged and present parent to his 9-year-old son, Amiri. He's the founder of Motivation Destination, which is a platform that grew from his passion for helping others. Justin is also an entrepreneur and small business owner. His hobbies range from writing, reciting poetry, to bird watching and playing sports. I met Justin for the first time last year during the Authentic Parenting Conference. And ever since that day, Justin has been a very integral part of our community. If you are in our Facebook group, then you know who Justin is. Single mothers have a hard enough life, but single fathers get in many cases the even thinner end of the stick. Many support programs are tailored to single mothers. A lot of books are written from a female perspective, and both employers and society look at single male parents with a different perspective, whether we want to accept, acknowledge, or believe it. I was raised by a dad. I have tremendous understanding, respect for dads, and passion for helping and advocating for them. So if you are a single father out there who listens to this podcast, kudos to you. For full episode show notes, additional free resources on parenting, contact info, and ways to work with me, visit authenticparenting.com. As a listener of the show, you receive a 10% discount on all my coaching packages. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. And follow me on Instagram, the only social media platform that I like. You can see behind the scenes of podcasting, work, personal life. I post inspirational content. And of course, I do book giveaways. If you need support during this uncertain and difficult time with the coronavirus pandemic, I want to mention that I still continue offering the free weekly support calls for my community. If you need help, please reach out, don't be alone, and we will provide the support that you need. And now, please enjoy this wide-ranging and honest conversation with Justin Mitchell. Well, Justin, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we have been seeing one another on our support calls, and I have met you in real life last year at the Authentic Parenting Conference for the first time. So you've been in the community, in our community, for a year now.
Yeah.
And now we're doing the podcast. I am interested in your story because I know a little bit about you, but I want to uncover a little more. So you are a single, full-time dad to a 9-year-old boy, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay,
Totally
so
correct.
let's start from single fatherhood. How did you become the full-time single parent today? I know once upon a time it wasn't the case.
Right.
Right?
Well, my son, July 22nd, 2018, he called me from his mother's house and he said, "Daddy, can I come stay with you for a couple weeks?" And I was like, yeah, that'd be great. What's your mother say about that? He said, she's the one that told me to call you. I said, really? Let me talk to her about it. So I talked to her, and because of her situation at the time, there was some instability with employment, financially, even some health issues with her. It was to the point where she was going to have to move back in with her mother. And at the time, her mother had gotten pretty ill, COPD, and she was just having some issues. And it wouldn't have been a good environment for Amiri to be in, or for the mom to have Amiri there. Because Amiri's, he's an active boy. So we talked about it, and I said, sure, yeah, he can stay with me for a couple of weeks. And then she and I talked again, and she said, do you want to just maybe get, how she put it, temporary custody of him and just let him stay there? Like, we were just kind of just discussing it. And I said, listen, I'd love to do that, but we're going to do it through the courts. So I don't want you going back and switching things up and put in, I wrote up what I wanted, and which was I wanted full sole custody, but because she had expressed an interest in being, an active participant in his life, I wasn't awarded that. So they gave me sole residential custody. So on November 26, 2018, the court awarded me sole residential custody of Amiri. And yeah, so that's how him moving in with me and me becoming a full-time parent in that regard, that's how that started.
Mm. And it's been quite a journey for you to do your own personal growth work and be a full-time dad, and you're pretty involved. It wouldn't be a surprise to the people who know you from our community. I know you from social media too. You're pretty involved. And the thing I like about you is you always want to get better. So it's pretty admirable. But I would love to know how fatherhood changed you in ways that you didn't expect, or the strengths that you didn't know you had, or the weaknesses you didn't know you had.
Well, let me first start by saying this. Whenever we talk about fatherhood, I think of my dad. When we were young, first of all, let me say this. My father's a Vietnam vet. He had Purple Heart of Courage and all these things, but he was honorably discharged. Basically, he had a nervous breakdown. And so when we were young, I remember him saying to us that he saw God. God spoke to him and asked him if he wanted to live again. And my father said, yes, I want to live. My dad said that God spoke back to him and said, well, you can't take another life. Now, again, this is why he was in the service. So as a kid, I was just like, okay, Daddy, you're crazy. That sounds crazy. But when I was 30 years old, away in college, I spoke to my dad's mother at the time. And I said, just tell me everything you can about my father. You just tell me. And one of the main things that I remember her telling me was my father's experience in Vietnam. So I got the full story of what happened. And something changed in me at the way that I viewed my dad. And remember, I'm 30 years old at this point. There was more honor, more respect, more like, Daddy's my hero. I tell everybody, yes, I love God. Yes, I love Jesus. We can go all down the line of spiritual leaders that have been great. But my father is my hero. He had to walk, talk, write. He had to relearn how to do everything. His platoon got raided in Vietnam. And when they found my father, he was by himself in a cave holding his best friend's head, just looking at it. So the way my father would say it, he was a vegetable. That's how he would say it. That's not trying to be disrespectful to anyone. I'm just telling you how my father's language was back then. So knowing that story now, and then thinking, wait a minute, Daddy put himself through engineering school. Daddy was the lead, the commander of the Knights of Columbus. Been married to my mother 47 years, raised 5 kids. So putting all that together and seeing where he came from, it's just amazing. It's just really, really amazing. The faith that my father had in God and still has in God, the strength. So I say that to paint the picture that when I think of fatherhood, I think of my father, who was my leader, to be the parent that I am today. So it starts with my dad. He was great with us. He and I had a hard time growing up because I was a knucklehead. I didn't like to listen. So it got very physical between me and my dad. So I always said, if I ever had children, especially if I had a son, I was not going to raise my son the way my dad raised me, with the anger and the violence. So that was the first thing. I said I would never raise my son the way my dad raised me. In that way, But the
Mm-hmm.
other ways, as far as me and my father used to play ball all the time in the backyard. We throw the ball around together. My father, he'd have me out in the yard landscaping, cutting grass, raking leaves, and all those things. But the anger piece, I said I would never do. So that it starts there. And then just for me, a big thing for me, I didn't know that I was quote unquote African American growing up. And you and I talked about this a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that I was a race.
Mm.
I didn't know that I was, because of the color of my skin, that there was prejudices. I mean, my father would say stuff like, you have two strikes against you. One, you're a boy, and one, the color of your skin. But he said it like one time, and I never really focused on it. So growing up, we were raised in a Eurocentric Catholic church, St. Patrick's Parish in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and there was only two other African American families, and one was my cousins. My cousins.
Mm.
So my parents didn't sit down and read to us about African American history and culture. We
Mm.
didn't study it and have specific things. Look, we celebrate St. Patrick's Day. The whole world is green for us on St. Patrick's Day. We celebrate, Easter, and we celebrate all regular American holidays as Americans. We've never separated time and space to study African American history and culture. And that's not a knock on my mom and dad. I think they were just trying to raise us to just be open-minded individuals. And I love that they did that. And that's one of the things I do with my son. So I'm saying that to say that I didn't really experience racism and things of that nature until I was an adult. I was
Wow.
28 years old away in college, and somebody called me the N-word, and I was ready to knock him out. But where I was
Wow.
at, that would have been the best course of action. I was away in Vermont in college, and up there's not many people of color up there.
Mm.
So I said, well, Happy New Year to you, and I walked away.
Wow. But so growing up, where did you grow up? I mean, in what kind of community? Predominantly white? What was it like?
And this is what's really cool about this. We grew up in the inner city. We grew up in what's called the Hollow section of Bridgeport. I was born and raised in the north end of Bridgeport, which is a kind of nice area. The neighbor to the left of us were Hispanic. The neighbor to the right were African American. But we couldn't keep that house. The family got big, so we moved into the inner city. The Hollow section of Bridgeport, it's called. And in this area, it was all Hispanic. They don't call that part Little Puerto Rico, but it was mostly Hispanics. The projects were literally a block over. Like you could see the projects from my front porch, the Greens projects. And that's where we kind of started hanging out in the street a little bit. Because, fourth, fifth grade. Yeah, so we grew up Bridgeport, Connecticut. But we went to my kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade. We're all parochial school. So we went to St. Patrick's Church, St. Patrick's Elementary School.
Mm.
Third grade, we were in St. Rayfield's Elementary School. And for financial reasons, my parents took us out of parochial school and put us in the public school system. And yeah, and we moved a lot of times around the inner city.
Mm. But so I'm curious. So your parents, I'm trying to understand. So they chose this purposefully, right? To raise you like that. Were they proud of their heritage and their culture?
Oh yeah, I mean oh yeah, but I guess the part of it that we didn't discuss was the racial prejudices. That wasn't highlighted. And listen, my parents didn't tell me that George Washington Carver made so many different things with a peanut. They didn't tell me about Madam C.J. Walker. They didn't teach us about that. So I didn't know anything about W.B. Du Bois from my mom and dad. I don't know why exactly those things weren't discussed. I'm not exactly sure. But as far as culturally, like the foods, man, my mother ate ham hocks and pig feet, and chitlins. So that part of the quote unquote culture is still alive and very present in my mother and father's lifestyle.
Wow. So in terms of blending in, belonging, having a sense of identity as a teen or a young adult, like looking back at your life, how was it for you? Where did you belong?
You know where I belonged, Anna? I belonged playing the video game and playing basketball. That's the only. Those are the only two places I felt comfortable growing up. And a lot of that though was, we're gonna be honest and tell my story. A lot of it was because just I was not making the best choices as a kid. When I was 5 years old, I started stealing quarters from my father to go to the ice cream truck. I would steal 1 quarter here, 1 quarter there, and I would just go and buy all these nickel candies. And I had filled up my bottom drawer, my dresser, and my older brother. I have 2 older brothers and 2 younger sisters. One of my older brothers, he told on me, and my dad. It was the first time that my dad used his hand to hit me instead of using a belt, and that upset me. So I said, well, you know what? I'm going to steal even more, and I kept stealing and stealing and stealing. So what I understand now is I was always uncomfortable in my own skin because I was always fearful of getting caught. But the only places that I did feel comfortable was out on the basketball court because I could be by myself shooting around. And then when we play, because I was always by myself shooting around, I was really good. And in video games, I would get engrossed in video games. I would sit in my room and play video games. Those are the places I felt most comfortable. So in all places, I felt I was just not comfortable. A very anxious disposition.
And then you mentioned last time on the call that you are an empath. I am sure you didn't know at the time growing up, like many of us, that empath is a thing. So I'm curious, did you get bullied because of the color of your skin? Did you, besides that incident in college, did you have any experiences that somebody challenged you or discrimination?
No, I didn't have any issues like that, racial issues growing up, because again, we lived in Bridgeport, Connecticut, where it's predominantly minority. The overall minority in the country was the majority in Bridgeport, Connecticut, except for like I said, we went to church. That church was because that's the church my grandmother grew up going to. So that's why my father. It didn't start that way though. My mother and father were both Baptists, and they were in Southern Black Baptist churches, and my father didn't like it. So he broke away and converted everybody to Catholicism, my mother included. And my mother's originally from North Carolina. She came up here when she was 13 with her mother, and they were Southern, quote unquote Black Baptist was their way of practicing. And my father tried to go that route, but he didn't like it. So he said, let's go to my church that I grew up, which was St. Patrick's Parish, and that's where we all, ended up growing up and going through the whole thing, catechism, confirmation, everything. We were altar boys. But no, the only thing that I felt, I was not bullied, I was molested as a child when I was in 7th grade. These two older guys, they were friends who my brother used to hang out on the street with. And that was something that I want to say messed me up, but it made me even more uncomfortable. Let's put it that way. It made me more uncomfortable around people. And I talked to my brother about it. He didn't believe me. I never really talked to my mother and father about it. When I was 24 years old, I finally talked about it to another gentleman, and he made me seek the person out and tell the person I forgive him. And I did that. And about a year after I did that, the person passed away. He overdosed on heroin and died.
No, I'm sorry to hear this.
What that did for me though, and again, hindsight being 2020, it was little things like that it grew and developed that compassion for others, that empathy for others. There's just a couple other things that happened, that made me really want to help give back, and try to, be a healer or a light in this, sometimes dark world.
Yeah. Wow. And so how do you bring that, the way that your parents talked about or didn't perhaps, about race and all that in today's world with your son?
How do I?
Yeah. How do you keep it the same way as your parents? Do you tell him different things? What are the conversations between the two of you? And does he ask questions about the world?
No, but let me say this though. One thing that he and his mother and I, what we started doing is we started speaking to both he and his older brother by saying things like this: pink doesn't mean that it's a girl color. Blue isn't just for baby boys. So we've been trying to talk to him already that busts up any possible mental formation that can be created that will have him start thinking in a narrow-minded way. So like we don't say, I tell them, if you're trying to describe somebody, you describe what they have on. Don't say the white person over there or the white girl. If you have to use a color, say peach or say apricot or whatever. But we're not going to get caught up in these labels because they're so limiting and it's just not fair. It's not fair to the individual. So that's one thing.
But also, I think from what I know from kids, when you ask younger kids to describe someone, they will never point out the skin color.
Right.
You know what I mean? They will say she has long hair, she has a pretty shirt.
Right.
Young children don't see the color. It's the adults who see the color.
So we're trying not to even, like you're saying, we're trying not to even feed into that in any kind of way. And like I said, one of the first things we used to tell them is don't get caught up in thinking that that color is designated for this or, you know. But I will say this, though. I went through some things that I had to go through. And it took me to a place where I was finally around a majority of African-American people who were older than me. And I said to them, listen, I don't know much about my race and culture. You know, here I am an adult. I don't know much about it. Can you help me? And this lady came out. She came to me. She goes, Justin, go get this book. And it's called The Great American Century by Henry Louis Gates Jr. and Cornel West. And it says how African-Americans have shaped our country. And I got this book and I said, wow, I had no idea. It's a whole book, probably over 200 pages of people of color who have invented, created, you know, trailblazed in so many different areas. It starts out in 1900 with W.B. Du Bois, the very first person in the book. And the last person in the book is Colin Powell. Colin Powell. So there's all these other people in between. Like I said, Madam C.J. Walker, Bojangles and the real McCoy, the guy, you know, and then when I read these people, I said, oh man, it's all autobiographical sketches of all these individuals. And I thought, wow, under all the circumstances that they were dealing with, they were able to focus, concentrate, and do these amazing things. So that was very big, very eye-opening, which led me to say, okay, what's been going on in our culture? What is this slavery stuff about? And I just I started really studying. I didn't go to school. I just started reading a lot of books about our history as a people, as a country. I'm grateful that my parents raised us the way they did, with love being the power supreme. Because in my anger, I didn't point my anger towards anybody, any specific people. It was just like these systems, these ideals, these institutions, they're messed up. And then I started learning that people aren't really the problem. It's their thinking that's the problem. And once I started to understand that I was a part of that too in my own way, that's when I really started personal development and working on my thinking.
But I'm a little, again, I want to ask a couple of questions. The book that you mentioned, can you say the name and the author again?
All right. So it's The African American Century.
Okay.
And then the subtitle is How Black Americans Have Shaped Our Country. And it's by Henry Louis Gates Jr. and Cornel West. And
it's all inspirational stories of all those people?
It's biographical sketches of all these, you know, like Lorraine Hansberry. And I mean, it's so many, just amazing. It's just awesome. Miles Davis. It's just amazing. Great book.
In terms of knowing and preserving the history, like where do you stand on that? Do you think it's not worth reading, teaching our children? You know what I mean? The inspirational stuff, I like that too. But how about the historical aspect of it?
The historical aspect of what?
Of race, of the slavery, of all of this.
Well, I think it's always important or good to go back and explore, you know, our past. Like, you know, people say in order to move forward, you must have to know your past, where you came from. You know, I'm a big person on intent. Like, someone says, yes, I want to teach African American history and culture. Well, I would say, well, what's your intention? What are you hoping
Mhm.
will be the result of you teaching this. Because I think we got to be very mindful, and this is what I think my parents were doing. I think they were being very mindful of what they exposed us to, because they didn't want us to get distracted by other things like anger that can come out of it.
Mm.
So I just think that's what they did. They didn't want us to feed that, to get that, so that we can be fully open minded, fully able to be present and fully alive in this world. I know some people who are so engrossed in being pro black that it's like, dude, like really, what about pro people? You're
Yeah.
pro black. Like they say, all Black lives matter. I said, yes, I get it, but all lives matter. The police officer who just murdered the African American boy, we need to talk to that police officer. There's something going on in his psyche. Something's not right. That's not saying, I'm saying let's forget the fact that he murdered an unarmed African American male. No, not at all. But I'm saying we can't just get caught up in the fact of that action. Let's go to the source. Let's go to the root cause. What made this person think that was okay to do in the first place? There's something not right with this individual. He needs help. She needs help. That's a big thing for me.
Mm.
And then that's something that I one of the things, let me say this, let me go back, because it's both of those things I just said, trying to get to the root cause of why we have these racial discrepancies and what makes a person think they're, but sometimes that's a really, really big piece of a pie that I'm not equipped and talented to deal with. So how can I do it on a micro level? I do it with my son. I've been to jail at least 12 times. And every time I would see all these young African American males, man, coming in and out. And they'd be smiling. Hey, brother, hey, it's good. Like they just came to the club. Oh, good to see you again. Like it was okay. And it was just bothering me, man. Every time I went, I'm like, man, these dudes, like they just, it upset me. Like, man, and I'm looking around the numbers, I'm seeing the faces, and there's so many young people of color locked up, recycling, a revolving door. They get institutionalized. So the last time when I finally came out, I finally said, look, I need help. I'm dual diagnosed. I'm an addict, alcoholic, and I also have mental health issues. I need a program. When I finally got into the program, I finally started really working this program, and I started changing my way of thinking. It was narrow in the sense that I always put myself first, but extremely. So I was extremely self-centered, extremely self-absorbed. And a part of that was it developed from like the survival mode. Things happened to me where I ended up being like a loner. My brother took off and ran with the gangs. My other brother was just in a lifestyle that was just not what I was about. So then I had my two little sisters, but it was me now. And I ended up learning how to survive. And that learning how to survive became very extreme, extreme arrogance. So anyway, long story short, I vowed that I said, again, if I ever have a son, I want to do my best to keep my son out of the system. I'm going to do my best to educate him, to help him be the best individual he can be. And that started with his name. I specifically chose his name for a reason.
What's in his
power
name?
Of words. Well, his name is Amiri. And Amiri is Arabic, and it means leader, ruler, and prince. So when I asked my mom, why'd you name me Justin? She goes, we named you after Saint Justin. I said, okay, that's it? Yeah, Justin. No, and I'm thinking there's got to be more to that. So I started looking up names, and I looked up Justin, and it means just and upright. So, and I remember someone saying, your name means something. So when you're saying your name, you're really saying you're just and upright. And I thought, wow, all these years I was supposed to be one who is just and upright. And when I realized that, I said, man, I've had this wrong for so long. I have to try my best now to be more of a just and upright individual. And that, again, it fuels my personal development. So I'm trying to raise and teach my son to be a leader. And it starts with himself, though. Like, you are a leader over your emotions. You're a leader over your thinking. You're a ruler and a prince over your thoughts, not over other people. It starts with you, young man. And that's how I talk to him. People say, why do you talk to him like he's only 9? When he was 1 and 2, I wasn't saying goo goo gaga, ooh goo. I didn't talk to him like that. I would say, hey, little fella. Hey, young man. How you doing, man? That's how I always spoke to him.
So let me ask you a question before we talk a little bit about your parenting and how you talk to your kid. I'm curious, your two brothers, well, you grew up in, I keep going back to this. It's pretty fascinating. And this is not every day that we talk about these subjects openly, right? So
Right.
your two brothers sort of chose a different path, and you said you were a loner. I'm wondering, what is their stance on this race topic? Did they embrace that they were African American? Are they like you, like very open minded, and all lives matter? Is there a difference?
Yeah, there's definitely a difference. My oldest brother,
Hmm.
he he's open minded to a degree, like me,
Hmm.
but not in the same way of race relations. He would be more. He would probably more talk more, pro black, and wouldn't he might not. I don't think I haven't talked to him about it, but I don't believe he would agree with me in saying no, not all black lives, not Black Lives Matter. I would, I make that amendment saying all lives matter. He wouldn't agree with me in that regard. My other brother, he he's the real he's the real, fist in the air, revolutionary, pro black. Anything outside of that, you're crazy. Yeah, I can remember speaking to him, intelligently like I am, and he told me, he said, how do you say it? You sound like a white boy. Don't talk like that. Like, what? So wait a minute. I'm just speaking intelligently, and you're telling me I sound like a white boy instead of just an intelligent person. But he's
Wow.
always been on that level of ignorance. He'll always have. And he's not a believer, so don't talk to him about God or spirituality in any kind of way. And he's always been like that since we were kids. Yeah.
Interesting, right? So let's come back to present day. What are some challenges do you experience in your parenting, full-time parenting, and you have your business, you are learning, you're doing poetry and motivational speaking, you're trying to launch your own things in parallel to parenting.
Right.
Wondering, how do you find balance? What are the challenges you face as a single father?
Okay. I'll say this: the biggest challenge that I face in parenting is suspending my agenda. That was the biggest take that I got from the conference with you all was,
Mm.
it's growing up. It was you do what I say because I say so. Don't ask any questions. Now I was always the question asker. I was always the one who talked back, and that's what got me in trouble. But now I know now that was kind of I was developing a gift to question things, and it's something that they labeled Amari with oppositional defiant disorder, and I said, no, listen, we're going to reframe that. You're defiant because you're just questioning authority. You're just doing it in the wrong way because you don't know what you're only 8 years old and you're questioning everybody. But I said, no, man, we're going to put a positive spin on this. You're just a seeker, man. You're curious, and you're not going to sit and just settle for what someone's given to you. You're
I
going to
love
question it.
that. Yeah, I
So
love
that's what I
that.
said to him. So I just try to tell him like it's a good thing. I think it's a gift you have to not just like be the sheep and just be led to the slaughter. You're going to question stuff. So then I said, that's good. You're just going about it the wrong way. But my biggest challenge is that though is suspending my agenda. But I will say, out of all the things that you've mentioned, I have a painting company, motivational speaking, doing poetry. I'm not basically. I'll just say I'm an entrepreneur, and I believe in having multiple streams of income. So I've been developing that stuff for a long time. However, and I always tell people this: my number one priority, my number one responsibility, my greatest quote unquote job, it's all being a father. Everything I do is to be the best parent that I can possibly be. I don't have multiple streams of income because I want a big house and I want a big car. I'm doing this because I'm trying to show my son that you don't have to go to school, get a job, and just settle for whatever your degree may be. And that's you're working for someone. I'm trying to teach him, no, dude, you can start creating an income stream right now at 9 years old if you focus on it. He's like,
I
well,
love
how,
that.
daddy? Just like the YouTubers you see watching, that's what they're doing. So he said, okay, I want a YouTube channel. So we started a YouTube channel for him. And he does tour reviews or he'll do these little videos. And the point, though, is trying to teach him that he has more power and control over his own destiny, as opposed to just, like I said, being kind of led to the slaughter.
Yeah, the growth mindset. I like that you have that.
Yeah,
Hmm. And he's a very talented boy. He creates music, he sings, he dances, and he may be an empath himself, right?
I believe he is.
And
Hmm.
thankfully, you understand all of this. And hopefully, one day he won't say, "I was misunderstood. I was a loner,"
Hmm.
or some other thing,
Right. Yeah,
right?
there was something big that I think you mentioned it at one point to me too, but I know my therapist at the time mentioned it to me, about the importance of nurturing our children, caressing them, rubbing them. You know,
Mm,
that sets off those endorphins now at this age. So when
mm,
they get older, they won't look for other ways to have those endorphins. We're basically talking about addiction and drug and alcohol.
mhm,
He said, so we do those things for them now so that they understand that there are ways of getting that stimulus, getting those endorphins set off, that it doesn't have to be overeating or smoking or drinking, or for some people it's stealing, whatever. So that's one thing. That's another thing I should say that was a challenge for me, was to be that way, nurturing in that way for my son, because I've had some issues in the past, and my father wasn't like that with us. So I had to go to counseling and therapy. I have to speak with people like you to give me direction, to give me insight, and then I have to go apply it. And I'm grateful to say that I've been able to apply it with my son.
I know it's wonderful. It's wonderful to hear, and it's wonderful to witness. I have witnessed, your relationship with your son, and
Yeah,
and
he's
and
cool.
uh, it's great. Yeah, definitely. And it doesn't come to some people. It doesn't come naturally. This whole. I asked one of my clients a long time ago. I said, how do you hug and show affection to your kids? And he said, I don't. I just love
Mm,
them. I tell them I love them. I said, what would happen if you held them and hugged them
mhm,
very tight and give them a kiss? He says, a kiss? My parents never kissed me. What do you mean? I can kiss my boys? I said,
mm.
yes. Have you not tried it? And so we talked about that. Next time he came to the session, he said, I tried it really. And it wasn't weird. And he started doing it. It's a wonderful thing, right? It's a very natural thing, especially like you are a sensitive person, you're an empath. I'm sure this, warmth and emotional connection is flowing through you naturally. Why not
Right.
just give and show it to other people?
Yeah.
But I can understand, right? Your father wasn't showing this to you. He was portraying this tough man person. I
Right.
don't know. um
Kind of, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a couple of things that I'm grateful that I have memory for. Like I remember once being at camp, and we were playing kickball, and I fell on the concrete and I hit my head. My mother picked me up, and she took me to my aunt Rosetta's house. But before she left, I remember her rubbing my back, and she was like massaging my back, and I'll never forget that. So that's what helps me do those things for my son. I remember that as a fond, kind memory that my mother just bestowed on me. That's why it's like, okay, I can do this for my son. And again, and the other thing is, I'm so grateful for some of the books. I love books. I'll just say that now. I love to read. I love getting engrossed in books. And I didn't read my first book from beginning to end until I was 24 years old. Let me say that too. I never liked to read it growing up. But when I was 24, and this was the first book I read, the African American Century. But in reading, I came across a lot of really good things. And one thing that I started studying a little bit was about the moon and the moon phases. We started getting into the feminine qualities, and I got interested in that. And then when I thought about us all being in our mother's womb for 9 months, and I started digging into some of that stuff, and it hit me. It's like, man, wait a minute. How dare I try to deny myself that side of me? I was in my mother's womb for 9 months. It's who I am. It's a big part of who I am. Oh, I listened to my mother's emotions. I felt my mother's cries. I ate when my mother ate. I heard my mother's voice. I wasn't in my dad for 9 months. So I told somebody just the other day, we're more feminine than what we even want to admit. And nobody
Mm.
wants to admit that. Nobody wants. Once I finally got honest with that,
Mhm.
man, the feminine, I believe that our culture wants to shape it and put it as this female personification that has so many notions and concepts tied to it. I mean, I'm not gonna get too much into it, but for example, I'm looking out my window right now, and just looking at the leaves, I can almost feel what the leaves feel like by looking at them. But it's because I touch leaves when I go outside. I'll caress a flower when I go outside because I like how it feels. And what's wrong with that?
Yeah, I
There's
agree.
nothing wrong with it, but the world, some ways in this world, will try to tell us that there's something wrong with that. So those are other things that I love to do in my. We'll go outside and just look at flowers, and we'll touch the grass. We'll hug the trees.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
But what were the messages you grew up hearing from your dad? I know he was a pretty influential person, right? A figure in your life in terms of manhood, in terms of feelings. Like you said, he exhibited anger. So anger is usually associated with men. It's okay for men to.
But let me qualify that statement though.
Mm-hmm.
My father's anger usually only came out when
Mm-hmm.
Justin was doing something wrong. Not my brother Stephen, not Owen, not Janine, not Dion, not it was either Justin or my father didn't like our cats. so let me say that first though. My father didn't go around the house in a big ball of anger. It was
okay.
Justin. And I had to finally be honest with that because the more and more I sit back and I hear myself talking to my son, I'm repeating everything that my father used to say to me. So my father would say stuff like, you can do anything you put your mind to if you just believe in yourself. And I remember one day I said, oh yeah, daddy said this. Let me try this on the basketball court. My father would say, just say to yourself, I believe, I believe, I believe, and then shoot it. So I said, okay, I'm gonna try what daddy said. And I said, I believe, I believe, I believe. And I shot it, it went in. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Let me try again. So I kept doing that. So going all around the court from different spots. I believe, and it kept going in. I was like, wow. So that's one thing that I love that my father instilled in us, is the believing in yourself. And of course, his belief in God. But another big thing, my father always told us, you treat women, every woman, I don't care if you know them or not, you treat them as if they're your grandmother, your sister, your mother, your aunt. You love, honor, and respect them. Why? Because they're women. He would always tell us that. Just because. He even told us that if my oldest brother was a girl, he would have stopped trying to have kids. That's how bad he wanted girls. But he ended up having 3 boys. And then after me, my 2 sisters came.
Did he change after that? Did you notice any changes in him?
Man, I mean, not changes in him, but he was still. Look, my dad is still very military. You know, he was clean and orderly, and he wanted things done a certain way. But I think maybe when my sisters came, he softened up a little bit. That's what you mean.
Yeah.
They were Didi Boop and Princess, Daddy's Princess. Those are my sisters' names. Didi Boop and Princess. That's Janine and Dion. So yeah, he softened up a little bit. But he still does the importance of love, honor, and protecting and respecting women.
And so then you grow up, then you have relationships. How did your relationships work out? Growing up with that kind of upbringing, hearing those messages from your dad, I'm sure some women broke your heart. What was the reality like? For you in terms of dating, marriage, women.
Well, let's again. I always got to qualify my statements because relationships were now again me hindsight being 2020. I was just a user. I just wanted what I was gonna get. I didn't care about anybody I was with. Just be honest, right up front, right now. I didn't, and I just kind of came to terms with that last year, working with my sponsor in AA. I was a very selfish individual. I wanted what I wanted, and I was moving on to the next. And that's just how it was. I didn't follow the pattern of a happily marriage in my home because remember, I was rebelling. So I wasn't trying to be like my dad. I didn't want to be like him, which is crazy because now I'm trying to be more like him. Something that really changed for me, again, when my older brother, Stefan, he told me I couldn't hang out with him anymore. I was kind of by myself. And being by myself, I started drinking. When I was about 13, I started drinking, malt liquor. 14, started smoking marijuana. And that really, it made me, like they say, it made me less inhibited. So I was more ready to dance at parties, more ready to talk to girls. But remember, the little boy in Justin was violated. And so I was trying to act like a macho person. So a lot of things happened at a young age. I lost my virginity young, and I say lost it because I didn't respect myself. I just gave it away, and in the backseat of a car. I would never ever even. Or I hope my son never goes down that route. I hope he gets married and and he stays celibate or something. I don't know, but so no, relationships growing up for me were I didn't care. I just wanted what I wanted. And that was it. I cheated on every girl I've ever been with. I could say I got my heart broke, but really it was something that I did that made her, not want to talk to me or deal with me anymore. So, yeah.
Wow. So I thank you for being so open and honest. Oh my gosh, it's like I'm so touched by hearing. There's a lot. I mean, your life was very, rich. You have a very rich biography, and what you're doing now, how you turned things around. I just love that. And I'm happy I met you now, right? So I know you
Likewise.
now. It doesn't mean anything. So it's pretty fascinating to see what you're doing now, and just the motivation, the courage, the growth that you have from all those traumas and the experiences that you have gone through. They didn't break you. You're very resilient, and only you're going upwards, and it's very inspiring for other people, and for your son. I bet it is going to be you're going to be a role model for him.
Yeah. 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 It's good. It's good. Like
Mm,
I tell people, I believe everything. I wouldn't change anything. Not one single second from my past would I change. Even the things that, I've had to go back and make amends to people for things I've done. Even those things, they all made me who I am. The bad stuff,
mm,
I'm more mindful, I'm more compassionate, but I'm also more aware of what people are capable of. Like I did some pretty horrendous stuff. And, I mean, I never murdered anybody. I never, put my hands on a woman, never did anything in that capacity. But because of the things that I know that I was able to do, I won't put anything past anybody on either way, good or bad. There's been some really good things that I've done, and then there's been some bad stuff. So the human capacity, I'm aware of it in a way where I won't be surprised by too much that goes on. And
mm,
I think that awareness, my father would always say, always be aware of what's going on around you. 24/7, be aware of what's going on around you. And I used to take that as being paranoid. But now it's like, no, it's just being present and mindful. And that's
mm,
something that I try to, teach Amiri.
mm.
And we have fun with it.
Yes, you do. What's your relationship with your father today? Having gone through all of these experiences, did you always maintain a good relationship with him, or was there ever a break in your relationship?
This one is gonna make me a little emotional, but I think I'll be all right.
Mm,
Ah, man, I don't know when it was, but I think I know when. February 4th, 2016. February 4th is my son's birthday, first of all. But that day was the day that I was released out of jail in Connecticut and into a program. That was February. The next month, March, my father, it was his 70th birthday, and my sister was telling me that she was going to throw a surprise party and she wanted me to come. Now, in the program, I was finally to the point where I was able to leave out and go visit family on the weekend. So I said, yeah, I can come. I can come to the party. And so I go to the party, and my sister's ushering me into the room. She's like, come in, come in. Like, what are you doing? I'm here. Stop making me out. How far into the house you want me to go? She said, just come here. And I go walk into the dining room. And Amiri comes from around the corner out of the dining room up to me. And it was the first time I had seen him in almost 2 years. His mother surprised me and brought him to my father from Jersey. She drove to
mm,
Connecticut to surprise me. So my father's 70th birthday party was the first time that I had saw Amiri in 2 years. And I just picked him up And he just put his head on my shoulder like he always used to do. It's like we hadn't lost a beat. And I just hugged him. And that's big because the next year, my mother invited me to my father's surprise birthday party. And when I got there, I was like, where is everybody? Where's the surprise party? She said, Justin, you and Amari are the surprise.
Oh.
So my father wasn't expecting us to come up there. I love my dad. He's fighting cancer right now.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
He's getting better. The treatment's working. But it's the third freaking time, man. He had prostate cancer twice. I'm sorry. He had prostate cancer twice, and now it's liver cancer. It spread to his lungs. But they said the treatment's working. The last time I got arrested, he said to me, he said, we don't want you here. We don't want you around here anymore. We can't trust you. And I thought about that when I was in jail the whole freaking time. I kept thinking about that. I realized that I had disappointed them for so many years. And that's when I just told myself, I need help. I got to get better. And I did. God heard my prayer. Yep. So our relationship is awesome. I call my dad once a day, at least. And we talk until he can't, until he can't be on the phone too much. But yeah, like I said, he's my hero.
Yeah. You should write a memoir one day. On top of everything you're doing.
I started it, but I started it actually.
What is the biggest lesson you want to impart to your son about, life, fatherhood, manhood?
The biggest lesson, that his authentic self is his superpower. That's the biggest lesson. To be yourself, and in being yourself, that's your superpower. And I said to him, he's like, okay, Daddy. I said, no, listen, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying to you. I said, think about these superheroes, Superman. I said, what's his strength? What's his ability? He said, one of them is he's the Man of Steel. I said, okay. And I said, I don't know. I think I said, what about Wolverine? What's his superpower? He goes, he has the indestructible claws that come out. I said, so my point is that all these superheroes, they're all known for their specific strength. I said the same thing for all of creation, really. I said, but let's just talk about me and you. I said, what do you think your superpower is? What do you think your strength is? And he said, just being myself, Daddy. I said, okay, we'll start there. At 9 years old, good. We'll start there. But me watching him and listening to him, one of his strengths is compassion. He's a very compassionate person. He told me a little girl, something went over the fence in school, and he was the one that stuck his hand through the fence to get it for her. And there's things like that he's told me he's done. He's helped a kid in his class do his homework or something like that. So he has a big heart, caring heart. He's very empathetic. So that's the big thing there's a lot of things that we talk about, but that's the big thing is be true to yourself, man. Be yourself. Be you.
And what's your superpower?
I believe I'm a professional optimist, and I think it's one of my biggest gifts and talents is being able to find positive and not just say that. Like I'm not gonna just say, "Oh, I find a positive." Like a lot of people say that. I find a positive in everything, and everything happens for a reason. I just specifically look out and search out those reasons, and I think that's something I'm really good at. So I think that's one of my superpowers is being able to find a positive in everything.
What it means to you to live an authentic life?
To live an authentic life, to honor my truth, to live my truth, to speak my truth, to be my truth. That's to honor my narrative, to honor me. I think that's, yeah.
So if today's you met the old you, what would you say to old Justin, the younger version of you?
I told her, knock it off. Dude, stop. I would say, would you stop it and be yourself? Just stop. So yeah, that's it, yeah, that's probably what I would say. Justin, come on, dude, knock it off. That's let me say this though. That's if he and I already had a relationship, like we knew each other. But let's say I didn't know him and I walked up to him or I learned of him, was watching him or something. I'd say, "Are you okay? Is there anything bothering you?" And then I would encourage him to speak honestly about what really hurts him, so that he can get it out of him. Because
Mm.
that was just something I never would do. I just never talked honestly about what was really bothering me.
Yeah. If I mean, have you ever imagined what if would have how it would have been if you had shared with your parents or with someone about the molestation experience or I don't know. Have you ever thought about that? How your life might have been different?
Not about that specific thing,
Hmm.
um, but I can imagine. Yeah, I mean, I think things would have been. Like I said, I try not to go there too much because
Hmm.
everything happened. It had to happen for a reason. Everything happened um, to to develop certain things in me that wouldn't have developed otherwise. At least I don't think so. But there is something that I did think about that upset me. That I was like, well, why did they do something? I had confessed to my parents when I was maybe I think 21 years old. I just came back from living in Cincinnati, Ohio for a year, and I said, hey, I said, Mom, Dad, I want to tell you guys something. They said, what? I said, all those years, because I was stealing money from my parents up until I was about 16. It got to the point where I was taking $20 bills,
Mm.
um, and I said, I want to tell you guys, it was me that was stealing money all these years. Because they used to sit us all down, and say, okay, we're missing money. Who stole the money? We'd all be like, no, it wasn't me. I know it wasn't me. It wasn't me. So I said, it was me all those years. And my mother looked at me. She goes, Justin, we knew.
Mm.
I said, what? Okay. And then that was when I was about 21. The last time I was in jail, I sat there and I thought about what you just said. I said, I wonder what would have happened if they would have stopped me when they realized it was me and confronted me.
Mm.
And I got mad. I said, why didn't they confront me? Why did they stop me?
Yeah. Why?
But something my father said too was he goes, Justin, you go around asking why too much. Just be. I said, wow, just be. Just be. Stop questioning everything. Just be. So some things I had to stop questioning because it was paralyzing me. Um,
Yeah.
and I had to just be. I said, okay, I'm gonna
Yeah.
accept it, accept
Yeah.
it and move on.
Yeah. That's good advice. Wow. I mean, I can talk to you for hours. There's so many topics, but I'm glad we had this opportunity. I got to know you and your story up close. So thank you for being
Yeah,
here. Thank
you're
you for your
very, very welcome.
openness, your vulnerability. It's really it's very moving to watch and keep continue the learning and growing part. It's inspiring others.
I hope so. That's the end game now is, for my family is yes, I gotta do everything I can for Amari, like I said on the micro, but then in the bigger picture is I hope that I could look back over my life and I can see how positively impactful it was in the lives of others. I want to have a positive impact. Yeah,
Great. Thank you, Justin.
my pleasure. Thank you too.